I'm Lindsay,
I'm Austin.
And I'm Joe from PopXcast,
a podcast member of the Gonna Geek Network.
Just like the show you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual host.
Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
and get ready because geekiness begins in
3,
2,
1.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Here we're a bunch of geeks talking about geeky things. Each week we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven.
But what if I'm in the mood for a T-Swift story?
Chris.
I've heard the X is going to give it to you.
And SP.
That's how we roll on Gonna Geek on Monday night. We get crazy!
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Steven Jondrew, and with me, of course, is the loyal Gonna Geeker, Chris Farrell.
I'm the conqueror of Skype.
You are the conqueror of Skype, and we also have the conqueror of the GonnaGeek.com show, Michelle Ealey, filling in for Stargate Pioneer. How are you doing today, Michelle?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Well, we're very happy to have you, and we've got a really jam-packed episode today, so we'll just jump into it. But before we get to the news, let me just remind you we're part of the Gonna Geek Network. The Gonna Geek Network has a plethora of amazing geeky podcasts. You should check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Many of them are television-oriented, but there's many that are not, and just general geekery, so check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. All right, we've said it before and we'll say it again and we'll probably say it for the rest of our lives, but Google's creepy, Chris. Isn't that right?
Only sometimes. It just watches you while you do everything and listens too.
And pretty much can predict what ads to serve you when you've just thought about something.
Well, them and Facebook. Facebook's even creepier on their ads.
Very true. But yes, we're back with another Google creepy story. And guess what it is? This time it's about a thing called Google Duplex. If you've ever heard of the Google Assistant, it's the thing that you see on your Google phones or within Google Homes and all these other things. And now they are adding a feature called Google Duplex. Now, why is this creepy? Well, because Google Duplex it's going to essentially be able to make appointments for you. So you're saying, wow, cool, that's really neat. It must integrate with a whole bunch of different systems. Like there must be a central booking system that it's just going to tap into. No, it's making the actual phone call. What it's doing is calling a specific place and making appointments for you. This is just one of the ways that Google Duplex is going to work. Now, why it's creepy is because they demoed this last week at the Google Developer Conference, and it sounded a lot like a human, and it did a pretty good job of picking up when somebody who was trying to make the appointment said the wrong thing. And it uses things like and ums. If you haven't seen this, Google, do a search, go onto Google or Bing if you prefer, and search for Google Duplex, because there is absolutely a creepy element to this Google Duplex. It sounds like a human, and as it's waiting and reacting to what this person that's booking the appointment is saying, it's making the appropriate like audible nods at the right time, like those and the ahs. It sounds like a human. Really weird. Chris, did you see this?
I did, and I'm an introverted engineer who doesn't like talking on the phone to people at times. And if there is a Google service that can call and get me an appointment for car maintenance or something like that, where I can just say, hey, I need it somewhere at this time, Google, go off and do it, I'm okay with it. Yeah, maybe it's a little creepy, but I don't have to talk on the phone. I mean, but in all seriousness, though, there is some cool uses for it. And let's bear in mind that Google has also realized that the internet overwhelmingly came out and said, this is creepy, and has now disclosed that when these calls go out, they will state that this is a robot, basically, that you're talking to. It's not actually a person. But there is a lot of cool opportunities. One of the things they talked about at Google I/O for using this is during holiday season, when everyone changes their hours, Google Maps wants to update to show what those hours are. So what can they do? They can use the Google Assistant have it call these businesses and say, hey, what are your hours for the holidays? And then update Google Maps accordingly. That's kind of cool. Ties into all of Google's ecosystem there. You don't have to rely on Google Maps users updating things temporarily. You literally have the Google AI giving a call and saying, hey, we need further clarification of what your hours are right now. I think it's kind of cool. Yes, there's a bit of a creep factor behind it, but I think some people were just, for some reason, overwhelmingly losing control when they're like, this is so weird. I was like, but is it? If you're disclosing now, is it really that weird? They're like, this is a moral issue we have. You're tricking people with AIs. I'm like, dude, I've been tricking people with soundboards since I was in middle school. What's the difference?
I don't personally see it as being that weird. I just said it was creepy because that's what the internet's saying, and now I can put it in the show description for SEO purposes. But I think it's the evolution of what we have been seeing for decades, right? You know, the soundboard thing. What the weird thing to me with all of these voice things is how close they're getting to being able to mimic somebody's voice. That's creepy to me. Somebody calling and acting like they're an assistant when they're just a robot. Why do I care? Why do I care that is not a real person? The only reason I care is maybe the data mining that Google's going to do with that telephone conversation.
Let's also keep in mind that the demo they showed off of Google I/O was very much pick and choose the best instances of what we've done here. We didn't get to hear any of the instances where this thing just crashed and burned when it tried to call someone, didn't understand what was going on, and just kind of flipped out. So they definitely took the cream of the crop when it came to their responses they got. I understand a little bit what the creep factor is. Everyone thinks, oh, Skynet, the machines are going to take over the world. Yes, you should probably disclose at the very least that this is a Google AI or whatnot that's calling you, so that someone doesn't think they're talking to a person and then get very confused if the AI gets confused and starts saying random weird stuff. But it's an interesting new way to simplify some things in life. And while I don't know that it'll get used as much as they demonstrated it, I think it's a cool, interesting use of technology.
I think this can be very helpful for those who have extreme social anxiety, those who are nonverbal autistic, and who are deaf. Having this technology can open up the world to them in ways that are just not possible right now.
That's a really good point, and I didn't think about that. Yeah, this is super helpful because there are people who sit there and they need to make a phone call to book an appointment, and they're so afraid of that phone call that they just sit there near the phone. That's a legitimate thing. That's a really good point. And see, Michelle, this is why you're the what did I call you at the beginning of the show? The queen of the GonnaGeek.com show. We'll just go with that. That's easier.
Well, I will accept the crown.
But seriously, no, that is a really good use, and I hope that it does help people. I guess the disclaimer is needed. I personally would care less. I don't care whether or not there's a disclaimer in the phone call myself. Yeah.
I don't think the people that are answering the call are really going to care that much one way or another. But let's make things clear of what's going on here, because we all do hate getting robocalled, be it from telemarketers during political season when you're getting the robocalls from politicians. Robocalls are annoying.
Yeah. Also in the chat, Suncast brings up the for the deaf people as well. That's another really good point. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be real cool if you could just, in our case, Steven, squeeze your pixel and say, hey, go through this list and make all my appointments. And it would just have the logic to go, okay, we know here's the things that Chris or Steven have coming up. Let me book those appointments, and I'm automatically going to put it on their calendar for them. So they don't even have to think about it. You just look at your calendar later and be like, oh, I've got an oil change tomorrow at 3. I've got to take the dog to the groomer on Thursday at 11 and stuff like that. It simplifies my life. Now, granted, Google gets more information. They're like, oh, I know he wants to get his oil change at this dealer. He takes his dog to this groomer. This is the grocery store of choice. But they've got it all already. I've already embraced that fact. I sold my soul to Google years ago.
Yes, we did. All right. Well, speaking of selling your soul, I heard you had to sell your soul to get Rick and Morty renewed.
Man, I was really surprised. So Rick and Morty, it's a show I greatly enjoy. It's another Adult Swim cartoon that you have on Cartoon Network. They just wrapped up their 3rd season probably about 3 or 4 months back, and there was a lot of consternation on the internet because we're all going, well, when's season 4 going to start? Because it took 2 years for us to get season 3, and nobody was under contract. And in fact, Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon had said to the fact, we aren't under contract. We're not working on this. So everyone's pausing and going, when are we going to get this? And Adult Swim, notorious for being a little difficult sometimes when it comes to working out deals. Well, last week on the 10th, it dropped that Adult Swim renewed Rick and Morty, and not just renewed it for a next season, they renewed it for 7 more seasons by putting in a 70 episode order of Rick and Morty. And why I say that's 70 seasons, each season so far has been 10 episodes. So presumably this is 7 more seasons. Holy crap. Puts them in syndication territory. It's a large order up front that you haven't seen very often, other than like FX when they bought Charlie Sheen's Anger Management. They bought like 100 some odd episodes at one point. It shows a pretty big commitment from Adult Swim to Rick and Morty. And on a side note, they also are supposedly bringing back Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. I just saw today too.
Wow.
So pairing up Harvey Birdman, Rick and Morty, and some other classic Adult Swim stuff, that could make for some fun things and some nostalgia for older folks like myself who remember watching Harvey Birdman and Aqua Teen and C Lab 2021 and stuff like that on the network. So if you're a Rick and Morty fan, be excited. 70 more episodes. Does anyone else on the show tonight? Do you guys watch Rick and Morty?
I do not.
Yes, and it's your fault, Chris. It's your fault.
I'll take the blame for that. It's a funny show, and it definitely touches on a lot of pop culture keystones. They had one episode this last season that just pretty much makes fun of the superhero movie genre, specifically Guardians of the Galaxy. And while it's making fun of superhero movies, it's kind of right, and it's really damn funny.
You know, it's really surprising. I might not watch it, but this is a surprising renewal for me. And hint, we might have a little bit more renewals discussion later in the show. But it is surprising because of the whole controversy we heard a couple months ago that they were kind of putting it out there like, man, I don't know what's happening. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm glad to see that happened because I know there are people who enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, 70 episodes, that's a big deal, especially when everyone's just kind of like, what's going on? They're not talking. If they're not talking, does that mean we're not getting Rick and Morty? And Rick and Morty, for lack of a better description right now, is probably at or near its peak when it comes to cultural relevance. We talked about the Szechuan sauce on this show before and stupid things like that, but Rick and Morty has become far more popular than they intended it to be, or ever dreamed it would be, rather. And so strike now while the iron's hot. Get more episodes of it made, put them under contract, make a crap load more of it. I'm good with that.
I'm just going to point out, by the way, that on the Gonna Geek Network, I talked earlier how we have a bunch of amazing geeky podcasts. We do not have a Rick and Morty podcast. And on this very show, we have 2 very fine podcasters who do watch Rick and Morty. So someone can connect those dots together.
I'm not witty enough to do a Rick and Morty podcast.
Geez, Steven.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I assume that's an inside joke to Rick and Morty, but I don't get it because I don't watch Rick and Morty.
The Inception-inspired episode, I think that's a good one just to show people because you don't need to really know Rick and Morty that much. How like they go into people's dreams, and then there's even a Freddy Krueger reference, and then it gets all like Eyes Wide Shut. It's fascinating. It's one of my favorites.
Interdimensional Cable Part 1 is also really good. This is one of those shows, though, that you can't watch like one episode and be like, oh, I'm hooked. Because for me, I had to watch a few episodes before I saw how it all started to come together. And I went, oh, I get it now. Like, my fiance would make fun of me because I'd be watching Rick and Morty when her family was in town because her brother watched it. We'd be watching, she's like, I don't get it. Why is that so funny? And we're like, well, have you sat down and watched more than like the bits and pieces of an episode when you're passing through? And she watched like 3 episodes in a row and then she was hooked. It's one of those, it's got to grow on you a little bit because at first, like most Adult Swim cartoons, you're like, this is just kind of weird. What are they doing here? I don't understand. And then you start to see it all come together and you're like, oh, this is delightful.
I actually think that some of the best television takes more than 1 or 2 episodes to get hooked on. And I think that that's just kind of because they have the long play in mind, right? And that's how they develop it from the beginning. So I will at some point have to check out Rick and Morty if I can find it up here in Canada because we don't have Adult Swim. Yeah. I know. You can hear everybody's silence that they just are so heartbroken for me. That's what that was. So next up in the news, we have actually a heartbreaking piece of information. Isn't that right?
Margot Kidder, who starred as Lois Lane to Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent in Clark Kent in 4 Superman films in the late 70s and 80s, has died. She died Sunday in her home in Montana. She was 69. The cause of death has not been released. They don't think it's foul play, but it is under investigation. In addition to Lois Lane, she was also in Rob Zombie's Halloween Part 2 in 2009. 2002, she was on Broadway in the Vagina Monologues. She was on TV shows, including Law and Order SVU, The L Word, Brothers and Sisters, Smallville, and R.L. Stein's The Haunting Hour, which won her a Daytime Emmy in 2015. One of the reasons why I also admired her is because she was public about her struggles with bipolar disorder. I have bipolar disorder. So the more of us who are public about it and discuss it helps break the stigma and helps move us forward. And so I admired her for that a lot. She is survived by her daughter, Maggie, and 2 grandchildren. So this just learned about this today, and sad.
It is sad. Yeah, this just came out today when we're recording this, Monday, May 14th, 2018. It is a very sad piece of news. I believe there was a scare with her a couple years back where people thought she was having difficulties, wasn't there? Or she was being talked. Wasn't that the case? No, making that up. Okay, I guess
don't remember.
I thought there was.
I just know she got arrested protesting the Keystone Pipeline.
Oh,
There's that.
I'm not sure, but in any case, it was a very sad piece of news. Margot Kidder, definitely an icon, right? And for all the reasons that you've mentioned, obviously so many people know her from the Superman films, but she did so much more. And like you said, from a humanitarian reason as well, such big movement there, for when she came out and talked about her bipolar, it was such a time, like you said, that there was not discussion at all. And even today, there's still a lot of wrong information passed around, but she really did come out at a time that, people judged, and it helped break the silence. And it was such an important thing that she came out and talked about. And so it's a very sad loss for many reasons.
Yeah, her and Carrie Fisher, really helped a lot of us who have mental illness and who need to look up to people and to actually admit it and not be afraid to admit it to other people. That's why we need people to come forward and talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. Moving on to the extra section here, we have a couple of Google updates, actually. Chris, these ones I know both will affect you, so we'll start with the one that will affect you the most, which is Google Max. I know that you have a Google Home Max, right?
Of course I do.
Right.
'Cause that's exactly what I built my house around, was Google devices.
Yeah, you don't do anything to do with that competitor, right? The Amazon voice service device.
That Amazon A-word device. A-word meaning a-hole.
Joking aside, all of us here are more in the Amazon side of things, but there is Google Homes. We admit those Google Homes that exist. They're kind of like an Amazon Echo, if you've ever heard of those. One of the things that Google made last year was a Google Home Max, which was apparently their big attempt to get into the high quality audio realm of the consumer sales. So they made this device. It was quite expensive, but it was definitely meant to do that home audio. Well, guess what? Apparently there was a delay of 550 milliseconds when you did sync these devices, and there's an update that's going to bring that down to 39 milliseconds. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Steven, that's really not that much, but it is when you consider the fact that people might have one of these devices in their living room, then they might have one in their adjacent room. That's a lot of delay if you're playing the same thing over multiple devices. So that's good to see, because from a home audio perspective, that's what you need. Like, that's why Sonos has from the beginning done such a good job in the home audio realm, just because of the fact that they got that sync so perfect. Yeah, and it's good to see Google doing this. Chris, this will definitely make you buy a Google Home, right?
Well, it's not going to, because the Google Home Max is god-awful expensive. But it's good to see it's another instance of Google going, oh, we screwed that up. Let's fix it with software again. So kudos to them for getting that right. I know I have issues sometimes with latency between my Amazon Voice Services devices when I'm playing across multiple of them in the house. Across two, you're okay, but if you start doing more than two, sometimes you do see some weird little hiccups where you're like, wait a second, these aren't lining up right.
I pretty much only have two within earshot of each other. My third is down, so actually right in this den here, which is away from the other two. So I don't have that problem because I'd have to walk down the stairs to hear it, and then I don't hear the other two. So yay, Steven, for being cheap.
So I actually did experiment at one point in time because I have the one that's in that battery-powered dock. I carried it around the house with me to go to the other ones to see how well they were syncing
That's
up.
Good.
I need to grow up.
You can't, while we're talking about Amazon, since we started with Google, do you know that you can't actually do the sync when you're playing, when you got it hooked up by Bluetooth? It won't actually do multi.
When you're streaming from your phone by Bluetooth to one device?
When you've got it connected. So like if you take your dot and you tell it to put the audio out over Bluetooth to a speaker, it won't let you do a group playback to that anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's weird.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll fix that at some point.
It's annoying because I tried to do that. I moved my Echo Dot away from my TV, and I'm like, I go by Bluetooth to that, and then I moved it over, and then I moved it promptly back about an hour later because it wouldn't do it. So there you go. And I wasted $10 on a Bluetooth receiver. Also in the extra, we're going to talk briefly about another couple Google updates, which is the Google Drive is now known as Google One. Makes everything's just going to one, right? You know, Xbox One, Chris One, everything's Google One, or One. And the Google One is changing their plans. If you ever looked at the storage allocation amounts on Google Drive before, you would have noticed that there was a 100 gigabyte option and then a 1 terabyte option. They're getting more with the modern times. We've seen online and cloud storage drop quite a bit, and it's going to be $2.99 a month for a 200 gigabyte plan, and then the $9.99 per month, which used to be for 1 terabyte, is going to be a 2 terabyte plan. So it's nice to see them making some adjustments there. There's not going to be, of course, a 100 gigabyte or a 1 terabyte option anymore, but yeah, they're definitely making some changes. Now, I first noticed this when I went to create the show doc the other day. We use Google Drive to create our notes that we build for the show. Yes, we do some prep for the show. And I noticed that the logo had changed. And now today has the big announcement about Google One. How exciting is this, Michelle?
Well, I already use like OneDrive and all the Office 365 things.
Yeah.
So good for you who use Google.
But, you know, now we can be really confused because there's Google One and there's OneDrive. I totally call that it's not a coincidence. It's Conspiracy Stevens here and saying that OneDrive has had some pretty good success by Microsoft, and now Google's going to come in and be like, oh, yeah, OneDrive? Oh, OneDrive. This says Google One. Oh, that must be the same. Someone must have said, oh, One Google Drive. That's what it is. Yeah, totally. It's totally intentional.
People call the Xbox One Xbone, so I wonder if they're going to call the Google One Gone.
Oh, I like it. That's what I'm going to call it from now on. It's going to be the Gone. Chris, let me ask you this, Mr. Farrell. You actually pay for Google storage, don't you?
I had a bunch of free storage from my contributions to Google Maps because I do regular reviews and photos and things like that. I did run out of storage that was only good for a year. So yeah, I did subscribe to it. I don't remember what tier I'm on, but whatever. I'll probably stick with whatever I have right now. I did a quick look right now. Google Drive is not rebranding. It's just the storage plans are being branded as Google One, evidently.
Oh,
it's not confusing at all, Google.
What? I thought that it was... Wow. Okay. Well,
so
that's
I
so
found
bizarre.
an article on TechCrunch, and they're refining it, and they say it's also rebranding the storage plans, but not Google Drive itself as Google One. The interesting thing is you'll be able to share it with up to 5 family members now. I don't remember if you could do that before or not.
That is a new feature. I do know that.
So that's kind of cool. You could set it up to share it with your wife and your brother or something like that. And if you were getting the 2 terabyte plan, that's 2 terabytes of shared storage between the group of you. That's kind of cool.
That's weird, the naming thing. I'm not surprised, though. I believe the last time we talked about a Google rebranding, I did the exact same thing where I got confused.
Yeah, let's be honest, though.
Yeah.
How many times does Google change the name on things? We have Android One, we had Nexus, we have Pixel, we have blah, 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 blah. Google just changes names until they find something that sort of sticks.
Yeah. Well, in any case, these plans are better. I tried to stay with Google Drive a while back, and I had to leave because their storage options just didn't line up for me. 100 gigabytes wasn't enough, but I didn't want to pay up to the 1 terabyte compared to some of the competition. So this is good. This is what I was saying, actually, is I wanted to see them offer a 200. So there you go. There's no reason now for you not to share your 4K sexy videos with Chris Farrell.
Oh, here's more on why they went to that one name. According to this, it includes free one-tap access to Google experts for help with any Google consumer product and service. That access is to live experts, not some barely functional AI robot. It comes with every Google One plan, including the $199 a month to 100 gigabyte plan. So you're also able to leverage Google support directly with one click of a button. I don't know. It's the same crap they put in the Pixel phones where I can request help if I need it. But since I know how to use the Google search engine, I never do.
So basically sign up for your Google One Drive today. Is that what we're saying? Because they're Google Drive and
Google One storage in your Google Drive.
Right.
With Google One Touch support on your one Google phone.
Yes. It makes sense.
Yes.
Totally crystal clear.
I think we pulled that all together, figured out what all it meant, and summed it up quite succinctly.
I'm confused. I don't even know what my name is anymore after that. So let's go ahead.
Your name is Stargate Pioneer.
Okay, fair enough. So Stargate Pioneer is going to tell you, let's move on to talk TV cancellations and renewals. Here we go. All right, as we get into this, let me preface this segment and start off by saying, Michelle Ealey, you have done an amazing job here of curating all of this stuff. Okay, Michelle came to me last week when I invited her on here, and she said, hey, for my news, I'd like to do a roundup of the cancellations and the renewals. So cool. And she started to put the notes together and everything. And then quickly last week, it just snowballed with cancellations. It seemed like there was more cancellations than we've seen in recent years. So this turned into the segment today, and Michelle, you've done a wonderful job, so I will let you lead the segment.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm going to cover one cable channel and then the regular broadcast channels. So this is not streaming or premium channels or anything else. The one cable network I'm focusing on is Sci-Fi or Sci-Fi, however you like to pronounce it.
What about Sci-Fi? Combine the two.
Yeah. Well, they have done some cancellations. They've canceled Dark Matter, Blood Drive, Ghost Wars, The Expanse, the best show on television, and Face Off.
Boo!
I know. Entering its final season is 12 Monkeys, unknown as Krypton. I'm surprised we haven't heard anything about it. It seems to be hip and people are talking about it, but who knows with Sci-Fi? Because they have renewed Z Nation for the 5th season. I have no idea how this show has survived for 5 seasons. It's as confusing as the Google One news we just talked about.
Don't they own that show outright, though? Versus like The Expanse, where they're just distributing it for someone else?
That's probably the case. They
It's
also
dirt
renewed,
cheap, basically.
Yeah. They also renewed Happy, The Magicians, Channel Zero, Van Helsing, and Killjoys. The 4th season will be this year and the 5th and final next year. So that show will have a nice wrap up to it, unlike The Expanse.
Yeah, that's weird. I've not watched The Expanse, but I've had enough people tell me how good it is that, you know, I'm surprised because the people have been telling me is like the prime sci-fi market or sci-fi market. So bizarre, but I guess that's pretty much the life of sci-fi.
Yeah, it's smart and intelligent, well thought out, complicated characters. So guess not enough people watched it. So it's sad.
I was going to say, there's some stuff I read on that, and partly what got The Expanse was the production costs are pretty high on it, the special effects budget. And then the bigger issue from sci-fi standpoint is they're distributing this for someone else, so they don't own the streaming rights to it. So if it goes to Amazon Prime or to Netflix, sci-fi is not getting paid for it. Whoever does the production on that show gets paid for it. So from their standpoint, it was, we're not making a ton of money off this. It's expensive, and we're not getting the ratings we want out of this. So depending on who owns the rights to it, still there's maybe a shot that something like Amazon or Netflix or Hulu might pick it up, because I think Amazon has the streaming rights for the back catalog of The Expanse. So there's a shot. We'll just have to look and see what happens.
Did you say the Bat catalog? Like it's a Batman version of The Expanse?
I might have slurred it by accident. Back catalog is what I meant to say.
I'm just being me. Go ahead with the next one though, because you were talking about how The Expanse was intelligent, and I know that Celebrity Big Brother is super intelligent.
Very, very intelligent. The celebrities they got, I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, no, it was Mark McGrath and some other people. We are talking, of course, CBS. Celebrity Big Brother got renewed along with a lot of my mom's favorite shows. Hey, my mom's in her 60s. This is the CBS demographic, okay? So do not judge my mother. Yeah, CBS renewed a lot of their things. Amazing Race, Big Bang Theory, Bull, Elementary, which my mom is very happy about, along with Survivor and Instinct. CBS canceled 9JKL. I have no idea what that show was. Kevin Can Wait. That's interesting.
Not surprising, though, if you follow Kevin Can Wait, because it had a major change at the end of season 1. Like, they were struggling for season 1. So I was predicting this one a long time ago.
Yeah. Also canceled Living Biblically, Me, Myself, and I, Superior Donuts, Wisdom of the Crowd, Zoo, and Scorpion. Yes, people, Scorpion was actually still on the air. It finally got canceled.
Can I interrupt for a second? Because sure. I usually reserve this for moments of celebration, like at the end of a game or something. But let's just go ahead and give the cancellation one of these. Yeah! Finally canceled. Yay, 3 years too late.
I only watched like 3 episodes of it before I decided it was crap and wasn't doing it.
Did you watch it, Michelle?
My mom, like, she didn't know what the show was, and she taped an episode, and I ended up watching it, and we just looked at each other and like, is this like the dumbest thing we've ever seen? It just might be the dumbest thing we've ever seen.
It's the Big Bang Theory solves crimes.
It was horrible. I gave it like, I think I gave it 3 or 4 episodes originally. I'm just like, no, I can't do it. It was not good at all. I want to say this, though, out of this CBS list, I think out of all of the networks, as you go through this, we're going to see that this is one of the least surprising lists of renewals and cancellations, I think, between all of the networks. Because, like I said, Kevin Can Wait was predictable. Scorpion has been on its last legs for years. And Wisdom of the Crowd, apparently, if I remember right, it was highly anticipated and then just fell flat right away. People had a lot of problems with it.
Let's be honest, unless that's to deal with Big Bang Theory or its spinoffs, CBS can't do comedies lately, so it really shouldn't surprise you that all of those comedies got canceled.
Absolutely. One of the things that I will say is you talked about how this is like your mom's demographic, your mom's network. I watch NCIS LA and NCIS New Orleans, so I'm very happy to see those 2 renewed.
I only watch one show on this list, I realized.
I do watch Hawaii Five-0 actually as well. I was glad to see that was renewed, even though I like the show, but I think it should have been canceled years ago.
Yeah, how is that show still on? Because I used to watch it, and now I'm like, it's still on. They lost like half of their stars. There was a big hubbub about equal pay that came up, and it's still surviving. I'm like, I'm very confused.
Yeah, and it's typical crime drama after too long. Repeated plot points over and over. Yet I still watch. Like, it's probably because it's on Friday. Like, what else am I going to watch? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Come on.
Well, you can watch something else we'll talk about on Fox here in a few.
All right, let's before we get to the Fox news, let's get through a couple other networks, because the Fox one was head scratching, right?
Yeah. So next we're going to move on to ABC. ABC has canceled Alex Incorporated. I believe that was the Zach Braff show about the guy who quit his job to podcast.
Yeah, I wanted to like it because I like Zach Braff. And I watched like 4 episodes. I'm like, I still don't like this. It's really annoying. I quit. And now I don't feel bad at all about quitting because everyone else did too.
Yeah, I never gave it a shot. And the reason I didn't give it a shot was because I just predicted that it was too early and that it was just not going to land with the podcaster or with the people who are non-podcasters. I just don't understand how you can take that concept and make it into something that is appealing to the masses that consume of both podcasters and non-podcasters, because I assumed it was going to run into the typical problem that we see with the hackers in every movie. And you go, oh, I'm in 30 seconds later. And so I was like, that's the same thing's going to happen with the podcaster. So I just never give it a chance.
Also canceled is Boy Band, The Crossing, Deception, Designated Survivor, which doesn't surprise me considering all the issues it's had. Kevin Probably Saves the World, The Mayor, The Middle, Once Upon a Time, which should have ended last year, had the perfect series finale, but they renewed it for some reason. Quantico, Scandal, 10 Days in the Valley, and No Duh, Marvels and Humans.
So Designated Survivor was interesting. They had a lot of issues behind the scenes. They're up to their 5th showrunner. And I saw an article, it was either on Variety or the Hollywood Reporter that I read at my lunch break today. And it was, they almost brought Designated Survivor back, except for the fact there was a clause in Kiefer Sutherland's contract that if they made it to season 3, they would move filming to Los Angeles instead of, I think it's in Toronto they're filming it.
It is.
So it became prohibitively more expensive to do that show if they moved it to Los Angeles. And that was the main reason they canceled it, because it would just be too expensive for what the ratings were. But evidently it did all right internationally because of Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
He was the draw.
You know, I really wanted to like the show. It was my favorite show of last year at the beginning, and then the showrunner problem, it was plagued with different showrunners in both season 1 and 2. If you look it up, there was multiple showrunners every season, and you could see it in the plots. They would start a big overarching plot, and then it would just stop. And then they would realign. Even season 1 was way worse at that than season 2. But season 2 also had those same problems. So I really wanted to like it. I did keep watching it every week or, every other week or whatever. But it was probably my biggest letdown in the last 5 years for TV. Like because it started so strong and the first few episodes were really good.
Yeah, I was enjoying it. The problem is the theme changed. At one point it was, let's talk about a terrorist plot. Then let's turn it into hopeful optimism about a man who wants to run the government who never intended to do. Now let's turn it into a West Wing ripoff. And I was like, you got to find a theme and stick with it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. And that's why I'm not surprised at all on this. And I was shocked to see it get a season 2. But anyways, we'll just have to make our own White House drama, Chris, starring you. You'll be the president.
All right. I'll be the president. I'm not old enough to be the president yet, but okay.
I am. Anyway, moving on to good ABC news for Renewed. 2 of my favorite shows, Blackish and Fresh Off the Boat, were renewed. I'm very happy about that. The Good Doctor was renewed. Roseanne and How to Get Away with Murder. Those are some of the renewed. Last minute, just before we came to air, learned that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been renewed, but for 13 episodes. And I did the math. If they start the show in February and they go straight through, it will end around when Avengers 4 comes out. So I'm wondering if that's the plan, that they are going to do 13 episodes. They'll do it in the spring. And they're like, okay, you can wrap up your story and it'll tie into Avengers 4 and everything will be wrapped up in a nice little bow.
The tough thing for them is going to be, and I haven't been watching it, but I've been reading the interviews, is they've been talking about how the last few episodes line up with Infinity War. Like Infinity War is going on during the current run of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't gotten to the point where you have the snap moment. Now, the question is if the snap happens with the finale, how do they fill that gap between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Infinity War 2, or whatever they call Avengers 4, that presumably undoes the snap?
See, and that's why I thought that this was going to be canceled, because they had a very, very strong back half of last season. Then that gave them another season, which people were saying was kind of like, okay, maybe you should just end it on a high note. They did a really good job with this season, really went out there. And then the way they set up some plots and whatnot, I thought, okay, they're setting it up so that they can cancel. And from a creative perspective, it makes it easier as well to tie in with the rest of the Marvel universe, because it's a pretty big thing happening right now. But I just am shocked to see them do this, but the way that you've put that in there, or you've done the math with this, it kind of makes sense if that is what they're going to do. But we'll see. We know it's not in September, though. We do know that, right?
Well, we don't know anything, I don't think, on that, but we do know that they can save some budget potentially, depending on how the snap impacts Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Fair point.
No, I mean, I'm serious.
Now, Michelle, you are the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., which you can find at GonnaGeekNetwork.com, official correspondent here on the GonnaGeek.com show. You're the only representative ever on the GonnaGeek.com show for that show, right?
Exactly.
Are you excited that this guarantees another season of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. surrounding Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I am excited. We have been discussing that if the final show of the season, called The End, if it wrapped up everything nicely and if it stuck the landing, we were going to be happy with it. We, of course, are going to talk about our concerns, which is, it's like, well, are they going to dust half of them? And then when they come back, are they going to be kind of helping the remaining Avengers like fix what Thanos did? Or,
and by the way, for all of you listeners, we are purposely skirting the spelling it out, okay? So just so that those of you who haven't seen it, we're trying to keep it on the DL for you. So that's we're trying here.
Yeah, let's just say it's going to be very difficult for next season to make sense. The writers, I wonder how it worked, because last season ABC wanted to cancel S.H.I.E.L.D. Disney, Marvel was like, no, you will give this another season. So I'm wondering, it's going to be interesting. Did the people who are in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like, hey, we know how to do this? Or were the people who are Disney, Marvel going, hey, we have an idea for how you can tie this into the next Avengers. Here's what we need you to do. And you're going to get 13 episodes to do it. I'm wondering which way it went.
Yeah, I think there's more behind the scenes that we don't know, and it'll leak out in the coming months. This was a brand new announcement today, so I can't wait to find out, because I do suspect it's just like last year where there's somebody mandating it. So we'll see. Speaking of somebody mandating it, let's talk CW, because somebody must be mandating something over at the CW.
Well, CW actually only canceled 3 shows: Life Sentence, The Originals, and Valor. CW is known for not really canceling anything. Everything else has been renewed, including The 100, which I am so happy about. The 100 has always been on the bubble because it's very different than a lot of the other stuff on the CW. It's dark and edgy, and it's really interesting sci-fi. I actually do recommend the show.
What got renewed?
All the superhero shows: Arrow, Black Lightning, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, The Flash, Dynasty, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, iZombie, Jane the Virgin, Riverdale, and Supernatural.
At this point, it kind of feels like there's got to be something in the paperwork that says you take them all or you take none of them. So it seems like that's got to be the case with Arrow.
Well, we know that there's 11 episodes of Arrow because news has come out that David Ramsey, one of the stars of Arrow, who plays Diggle, is going to direct episode 11. So we know there's 11 episodes.
There's at least 11.
Yeah, there could be 13, there could be 18. Who knows? There hasn't been an episode count for any of these shows given. What's interesting are some of the shows that CW picked up. They picked up the Charmed reboot, the Roswell reboot, and Legacies, which is another Vampire Diaries spinoff. Not picked up was Wayward Sisters, the Supernatural spinoff. So that's the second time they've tried to spin off Supernatural, and it did not take. So I'm thinking that CW is like, okay, you know what? As long as Supernatural keeps its core people week after week, we'll just stick with that. Because Julie Plec has given the CW Vampire Diaries and the originals, apparently they read her script and her pitch. She has given them a little bit more cultural, younger references to the network, which is why I can see why they picked hers over Wayward Sisters.
These pickups to me spell that my theory is going to be true one day. And my theory has been for a while that we're about to see at some point a mass cancellation of the Berlantiverse. And I think that that's going to be the case. And that's why Arrow's holding on is they've had this vision to eventually let some of these show go on a little bit that people don't feel totally, I guess, swindled. I don't know what you want to say, but then they're all going to come in. They're going to be like, this is the final season for all of them. These renewals or pickups scream old CW of old. And I think that they're headed back that way. And I think that we're going to get that. It might even be this coming year that they go, you know what? This is the last year for all of them.
I have to agree because I didn't list all of them. But when you do read the list of everything that they've picked up, it does go back to that younger teen drama-esque non-superhero genre that they were known for in the beginning. And even though they've gotten 2 extra hours going into the next season, you know, when I read that list and I've seen the ratings for our superhero shows, I'm like, the writing's on the raw.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to keep them all or not.
And the biggest thing that really solidified my theory on that, because I've had that theory for a very long time, was when they staggered Legends of Tomorrow and also Supergirl, because Supergirl was doing fairly well, and then they brought it back and then just kind of pushed it to the end. It just showed that they just stopped caring about the placement, because that's big ratings killer. So anyways, very interesting to see, and maybe Steven will be right, or hopefully Steven will be wrong. All right, let's talk about the big one, which was Fox. This one was crazy.
Yeah, Fox has canceled The Exorcist, The Last Man on Earth, The Mick, New Girl, Lucifer, also The X-Files. Gillian Anderson stopped. She's like, I'm putting her to bed. And basically they were like, no Gillian, no show. That's what Fox has said. Fox has the ability to bring it up again sometime in the future if they just feel like they need it, or Chris Carter just begs them enough. So it is like canceled for now, but it doesn't look good that it's coming back. And last season wasn't all that great. So I'm not really disappointed that it's gone. Did either of you watch the last season of The X-Files, or?
No, I'm glad I didn't, based off what I heard about this last season.
No, me too. I watched when it came back. I watched all but like the last 2 episodes. They sat on my DVR until about 2 months ago, where I finally deleted them off and just deleted, kept deleting all of the ones from this season, because I just heard it was bad. So not surprising. I enjoyed The X-Files coming back for about half a season's worth when it came back last year. But
only half of them were good. That's the important thing to point out from last year.
Absolutely. What about in the other categories of what was renewed and picked up? Because there's some other head scratchers here.
Yeah, so I was very upset that Lucifer's been canceled, but I was very happy that Bob's Burger's been renewed, and The Gifted, which is the mutant show. Had no idea if it's going to go either way, but it has been renewed. They are moving the night of it, though. I can't remember which day of the week they're moving it to, but it will air on a new night.
Tuesday, Empire, I think, is what I'd read.
Yeah, Empire's been renewed. The Orville's been renewed, but will not premiere until either December or January. They're pushing it off because
It's December 30th.
yeah, Fox is all about football. They're going to have Thursday night football, and Saturday is going to be college football. So that's why a lot of things are going to be pushed off. Something that they're doing, which made me scratch my head, is Last Man Standing, which was canceled by ABC last year, but Fox has decided to bring it back for next season.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Tim Allen show, which when it was canceled, Tim Allen was accusing people of not liking the fact that he was a conservative. And he's like, it's very difficult to be conservative in Hollywood. And even though my show has great ratings, that's why it was canceled and so on and so forth.
Right. And I think we talked about it a little bit last year when that happened. And I did a little research on it when I saw it was coming back because I was curious what it was. They pulled in good ratings and they probably should have been renewed based off of that. But the problem was everyone signed a deal for 6 seasons. So it was new contract time. The show became prohibitively expensive for ABC to buy from Fox because it was done by Fox Television Studios to air on ABC when they had other stuff in-house that they could show on there. So they canceled it because Tim Allen, not cheap, those guys and everyone else in that show has been there for 6+ years, so salaries go up. So that was the main reason for cancellation from what I could tell. They got politicized because everything does.
Yeah, and the other thing that I saw as well was that they had said that it was because of the fact that ABC did the whole realignment on Fridays. It used to be on Fridays, and then they canceled a whole bunch of stuff last year. And then, as we know now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on Fridays. So that's what they cited as well, was it just didn't fit the formula anymore, and they didn't have another place that they felt it would do well. Now, it's here nor there. There's real true reason. Everybody will believe what they want to. I actually enjoyed the show, but from a perspective of, I always called it Fun Friday Family Fun. So Fun Friday Family Fun. Yes, I say fun twice because that's sort of the mentality you got to have. Nothing taking it too serious, but just kick back and watch sort of a standard sitcom type thing. So I really liked it because it was sort of a look into the past in the way of sitcoms, and that's the way that the show treated it. And I enjoyed that on a Friday night. So what else do we got?
In good news, kind of, one of my favorite shows, Gotham, has been renewed, but it's for a 5th and final season. I'm glad that they did tell them it's going to be the final, which means we're probably going to see Bruce become Batman sort of deal. And I'm glad we're getting another season. I love that show.
Yeah, I love it too. I know you and I regularly message about it. It's just crazy. Like, it's just it's bat expletive crazy show. And I love it. And I'm really glad that if they were going to cancel it, they're giving them, yes, this is the last season, because now they can fully wrap it up. And it is going to be a shorter season, by the way, as well. Yeah, I think it's only 13 episodes, they said.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. You know what? It's better than just getting canceled with like 2 weeks notice. So absolutely really cool. And finally, you had NBC, right?
Yes, NBC canceled The Brave, Great News, The Night Shift, Taken, Rise, and Shades of Blue. My mom's upset about Shades of Blue. That's the one with Jennifer Lopez being a cop. Unknown is Timeless. Timeless is the show that got canceled, but NBC brought it back. And its finale just aired, but NBC hasn't said anything yet. So we don't know. Some of the shows that's been renewed, The Good Place. The Good Place is so funny and so intelligent and just so good. I got my mom to watch it and she was like, okay, it's funny. It's funny. I'm like, Mom, you got to watch it till that last episode of season 1. And we actually watched it together. And at the end of it, she looked at me and she's went, this is why you like the show. And it's like, yep.
Yes, it's hilarious. Like Michelle said, it's smart and it plays with you throughout the show. And then they do something, and I won't reveal what it is. And you go, wait, what? And when you go and rewatch the show after that reveal, you go, oh, I actually see it now. They planted all of these hints of things. The show has become a different type of show each season. I can't wait to see what they do in season 3.
Absolutely. Season 2, I will say I didn't enjoy it as much, but it was, like you said, a different type of show, and it was fun. And I was very happy to see this renewed.
Also renewed is Law and Order SVU for its 20th season.
Jeez.
This ties it for its longest running drama with Gunsmoke. So Dick Wolf finally has his wish. He got denied this record from the regular Law and Order. So now NBC has made it up to him by renewing SVU for 20th season. So congratulations, Dick Wolf.
What else you got here?
Yeah, also renewed is Blind Spot. This is the Jamie Alexander show, the reason why Sif is dead in the Marvel Universe.
So sad.
Yeah, so
That
sad.
is true. They did confirm that she is dead.
Yeah, because the show got renewed. With this renewal, Uber producer Greg Berlanti sets a new record with 13 on-air series.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's nuts.
I'm going to end on very good news. For some dumb reason, Fox canceled Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
No, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It was my favorite. Don't tell me that, Michelle. You should have said it in the Fox part. Why are you breaking my heart?
Well, I'm breaking your heart to put it back together because NBC has picked up Brooklyn Nine-Nine for 13 episodes. Going to give it a 6th season. So this is nice.
Yeah, I gotta say that if you saw social media, this was announced on Friday, I think it was, that Fox was canceled it, that they canceled it. And social media went nuts. Everybody had tweets. People were shocked that this was happening. And people had said there was the rumor mill like almost instantly that other networks were very interested in this. A lot of people were thinking Hulu. Everybody was tweeting Netflix. And then it was like 2 days later, I think it was like, less than 48 hours later, NBC comes in and confirms that they picked it up. It's got to be one of the fastest pickups after cancellation that we've ever seen. It is amazing how fast this came. And I just got to say, if you want to head on over to geeks.link/Steven Did It, that's geeks.link/Steven Did It. You spell my name with a PH, STEPHEN. You will see that this was all my doing. I tweeted right after the cancellation, who else thinks that Brooklyn Nine-Nine and NBC The Good Place would make an awesome evening together? So clearly, I am responsible for this.
Yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Mark Hamill had absolutely nothing to do with it.
No, not at all.
Also, NBC actually passed on Brooklyn Nine-Nine in the beginning, and they sort of regretted it. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is done by Universal, which is a sister studio to NBC. So economically speaking, this is actually a good move for NBC.
Absolutely. And actually, they've been quoted as saying if they knew that Andy Samberg was in it, that they would never have passed on it. So I'm happy to see it was renewed again, a shorter season. That seems to be what NBC does with their comedies, though. Their comedies are pretty much all like that. So I'm glad it was renewed. I would like to have seen it be a full however many episodes, but I'll take the 13 or whatever it is. I'm cool with that as long as it has found a home somewhere. One of my most consistent watches in the last 5 years. It has been consistently enjoyable and yet not just dumb comedy. Like it's just an overall good comedy with some decent stories in there too. So I really, really liked it and was happy to see that happen. Chris, you watched this too, right?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine? I've never seen it.
Oh, well then never mind. But there you go. That is going to wrap up the big TV cancellation and renewal roundup on that wonderful note. Michelle, I guess you and I will just have to start a Brooklyn Nine-Nine podcast.
I'm down.
I don't know what we're going to talk about, but yeah, maybe not. But
I would assume Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate that. But that is going to take us to the end of the show. Before we wrap up, Michelle, I'll give you a moment to plug and promote where people can find you. We appreciate you coming on here, doing all of that hard work and running through that list for everybody.
Yeah, I'm at Michelle Ealey on Twitter. I am a co-host of the Stargate Tribune and the show that covers Arrow and the other CW superhero shows. And I'm a consultant on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., where we discuss Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the other Marvel properties.
Chris, do you have anything that you would like to plug or promote?
Sure, I'll go with my good old standby thing to plug, which is, hey, go check out the Gonna Geek Network, guys. Head over to GonnaGeek.com, click on the network button, and you can see the 25 plus shows that make up the network. We've got a variety of things. I'm sure we're going to have something that will tickle your geek fancy.
Awesome! So there you go for episode number 239 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I'm Stephen John Drew saying thanks again, Michelle, for compiling that list. It was fantastic.
And I would like to thank the websites who put that all together so I can put it in all the notes.
I'm Chris Farrell, and I need to know if LA to Vegas is going to get renewed or not.
I don't know, but you know what? The GonnaGeek.com show has been renewed, so hope you enjoy that.
Season, what is this? Season 73?
Something like that. Bye.
That's right.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.